everyone. Good morning, and welcome to our weekly Sunrise Project call, where this is always a safe space filled with love and compassion and our desire to heal ourselves and our families. Wel- Welcome, and thank you for being here. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That is super helpful for me every day. So I am super excited this morning to have very special guests with us, Dee and Lawrence Sapp. We are going to have a mother-son heart-to-heart conversation this morning, and it is going to be a wonderful treat. Let me first introduce who Dee and Lawrence are. First, and let me admit some people over here. Okay. People are joining, so I just want to make sure everybody is in. Okay, so Dee Sapp is the executive director of two nonprofit organizations, including the SonRise Project, and she is a seasoned author, nonprofit founder, and incredible advocate for people with disabilities. Dee holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Penn State in Human Development and Family Studies with a focus on lifespan human development. In October of 2020, Dee became a first-time author, penning her first published work in the co-authored compilation, The Nonprofit Legacy. Her chapter, which was entitled Inclusion Matters, provides context to her nonprofit journey and delivers an interminable story of resilience and hope. She also runs Accessibility Bridge, where she's founder and executive director, whose mission is to promote inclusion and create access for people with disabilities in every area of their community. This organization encourages and empowers people with disabilities to integrate into society by connecting them with resources. Stand by connecting them with resources and helping people gain access to all parts of society. She founded Accessibility Bridge due to unnecessary challenges she and her son faced due to inequitable systems and barriers. I'd like to now introduce, let me say one more thing. Dee was also appointed to a 4-year term by the governor and has been elected as chair of the council and has been working with Governor Wes Moore to continue her work with the Developmental Disabilities Council. Dee is incredible, and we actually met in 2016 at a swim meet, so more on that in a second. And joining Dee this morning, we have Lawrence Sapp. Lawrence is a junior at the University of Missouri, St. Louis, and a member of the varsity men's swim team. He is an accomplished athlete and scholar and a beacon of inspiration in the disability movement. He is a proud member of the Team USA Paralympic swim team and has represented his country on the world stage, holding numerous American records. I just am in awe of that. Together, Dee and Lawrence advocate for change, striving to dismantle barriers and challenge negative perceptions about individuals with autism and intellectual disabilities. This shared journey really embodies love, resilience, and the transformative power of inclusion. So this morning, we are here to talk with Dee and Lawrence Sapp, and a special conversation as we celebrate Disability Awareness Month and celebrate Lawrence's incredible achievements. And welcome. I want to start by saying welcome to both of you. I'm so honored that you're here. And especially to Lawrence for getting up so early. I know you are 1 hour behind, and I really, really appreciate you being here this morning with us. So good morning.
Hi, good morning, Kelly.
Good morning. So I want to start by sharing how we met, and I want to talk a little bit about the world of swimming. And we met, as I shared, in Phoenix, Arizona, when I believe Lawrence was probably 10. Chris was 10, I think. So at
Yeah,
least
Lawrence might have been 14. Do you remember when you
maybe
went to Arizona, Lawrence?
Yeah, I was 14.
you were
Yeah.
14. Wow. Okay. So this was 2016, I believe. And we met because there are very few Black
Yes, this
families.
is 2016.
2016, yes. Okay, so we met in 2016, January. It was Martin Luther King weekend. And I saw this Black family and said, oh, there's another Black family because there's not often that you see a lot of us in the sport of swimming. And so we approached each other, exchanged contact information, found out we live in Maryland, and stayed in touch all this time. So over the years, we've seen you at various swim meets and breakfasts and events all over the country. And I want to start by asking you, Dee, what has your experience been in the sport of swimming? That's how our connection started. There's
Hmm.
few, Black people, young people in the sport, and particularly when you get to Lawrence's level. Can you talk about that? Let's start there.
So when we first started swimming, it was just a life-saving measure. What a lot of people don't know is that people with autism generally elope, and the first place that they elope is water. And so a lot of the drownings, more than 80% of the elopement towards water results in death and drowning. So this was a life-saving measure for us. And so we put Lawrence in swimming he was about 4 or 5 years old,
Mm,
just pretty much as a life-saving measure. But we did it through a summer swim club. So it was around other kids. And so those of us that are in the swimming world, everybody's kids swim during the summer. Summer swim is, where you start. And at that time, I think there was one other Black family at the pool when we were there. I think we were more concerned about him learning how to swim. He was actually the first one. We have 3 kids. And someone asked a question, what does it mean to elope? It means to run away. So the fight or flight response for people diagnosed with autism, they generally run, but they're also intrigued by water. But elope means to run
mm.
away.
So I
Um,
didn't know that story, that's how it all started. Okay, that's how the swimming journey started. Okay.
Yes, it was just a skill. And so when Lawrence was learning how to swim, the big swim team, they would practice at the same time. So within the same pool, there's like a small section, as you know, which is like, I guess, 15 meters. And then there's like the bigger side of the pool where the big kids were training. Lawrence said he wanted to do that. And so he had no fear. We were like, you don't know how to swim, but he thought he knew how to swim. And so just from there, like he had this drive of wanting to be on the big kids team. And big kids were like 8, 8 through 18. And that was his goal. And I want to say like right around 12 years old, actually it was the other Black family came up to us and they asked if we had considered year-round swimming for Lawrence
Mm,
because he was doing so well. And he was racing the faster kids in our county, just doing summer swim, no formal training. And, Lawrence, I think you were coming in like second. I'm talking about the guy from Hawthorne.
mhm,
And they were like, well, if he had formal training, he would just be winning, winning, winning. So, that's how the competitive part started. Not, we didn't know anything about swimming, first of all. We didn't know anything about it. So there were no Black pioneers, people that could say, hey, look out for this, look out for that. So we're kind of it, to be perfectly honest, still.
Got it. And when you started, Lawrence, let me ask this, over the years, Lawrence, your love continued to swim? And is this like your big thing? You love swimming? Or I should
Yeah, I
ask,
do.
you love swimming. Do you love it?
I
You
do
and
love it. I like so much, but I do love it because sometimes over the season was pretty intense, pretty impressive. Like have like bad seasons so far, but it's all right. It's like it's my first time being on the roster team, so I get used to it, the training and then over stuff and stuff, and it's going through a lot so far. I think it's really good, but it's like sometimes like the swimming always hurts and pain and gets sore. Get a lot cramped out during practice. I can feel a lot disappointed myself, but it's okay. But I was not too happy for my season. It's just like I get beat by some other freshmen people, and then some fifth year seniors, like different ages. Like I get beat by 18-year-old people and 19-year-old people because they got the best club teams, they got the best trainers. I'm not like them, but I just train with the college team, the harder trainers stuff.
So
So you,
Kelly, that actually really speaks to what you and I talked about before when we were trying
yeah,
to do the crown swim.
yeah,
Resources really affect your ability to compete in these other spaces.
that's right.
And swimming is not a cheap sport, as you and I both know. It not only is it not cheap, it's very expensive. And to pay for, well, first of all, to be able to pay for the training is one thing, but to have access to training is another thing, which is actually what Lawrence is speaking to. Many of the people that he competes with at this level, they train with Olympians, notable Olympians. And in
Yes.
order to train with those people, you have to be invited. You
Mm,
have to be invited to train in those elite spaces. And Black athletes generally are not invited to these spaces. There are a few, but if you look at it holistically, that's still a barrier to participation, getting the training. So his drive is there. He's available. You know, he's been training year round since he was in the sixth grade from 4:30 to 6 a.m. Like we drive to Virginia. You know, we'll fly all over the world. We've proven that. But
right.
as Lawrence mentioned, sometimes he gets beat by 18-year-olds. You know, he's 22 and he puts in the work, but training is also a barrier.
And the fact that you have to get yourself to these places. So what you just talked about, you just got back from Melbourne, Australia, and there for, 10 days or something. Like that's an expensive trip. It's, you have to get there on your own. Typically the swimmer doesn't, but then the parent that might go along, that's an expensive journey. Did you ever experience discrimination, and I want to get back to the crown swim in a second, but discrimination in your journey? I'm assuming that the answer is you've experienced discrimination over the course of your journey in swimming, but specifically around swimming, would love to talk about some of the things that you have uh, had to deal with. And then I want to look at other places like education. So Dee, if you
Mhm.
talk about swimming first, and then talk about other places where you may have had to advocate for your son, for Lawrence.
So what's interesting is um, Lawrence has what you call a comorbidity, where he's diagnosed with two disabilities, but he is also a Black swimmer. So trying to separate the Blackness from the disability is hard. I don't recall facing discrimination for being Black, but definitely with him having a disability, it's made it hard because he doesn't always get the same opportunities as others, even with recruiting. You know,
Mm,
Kelly, you know the where we went through with getting him recruited to a collegiate team. We had coaches telling us that they didn't have resources or legally they couldn't recruit, you know,
mhm.
a person with his disability or in a certain program, when I knew that that wasn't true. But there are no laws um, protecting people with disabilities in NCAA sports, or protecting because they have their own governance, or even at the Olympic and Paralympic level. You know, that's also been, you know, a struggle. It's an issue of whether people want to do it or not, as
Right.
opposed to making people do it. So, yes, discrimination on the disability level, absolutely. But
Mm,
on the race level, I will say it's not been overt. They've been very welcoming.
mm,
Um, you know, I mean, as you know, on the team, I guess as best that they know.
right. Right. But they're not, were you gonna add something, Lawrence, about that? No? Okay. Okay.
No, no,
Oh, yeah.
just the
Well,
Oh,
Lawrence, so Kelly was asking, do you think that you were treated any different because of your disability on any of the swim teams, or if there were problems because of that? Like, do you think S14s are treated different than the other swimmers?
you mean like paraswimmers or college swimmers?
Either.
yeah,
Uh
it's right.
sometimes I mean I was not treated like in college swimmers, like on sole swimmers, that that's sometimes the teams sometimes the teams are kind of rude to me. Sometimes in the group chat or
Mm,
not including me, or I'll just be respectful. There's some this dude, this kid was like I have issue with this guy from San Antonio, Texas. About I was like missing practice or skipping yards and stuff because I train on badly during this workout session practice, and yeah, I got so confused about the set. I don't understand about the sets and practice and uh, about that. Like my training season wasn't the best for me because I don't like what I wanted during the meets that I go on. I feel like disappointed and at times and I didn't do well with my dual meets and I did pretty bad and then I get hurt, tired, and sore and stuff. But I wasn't sore, but about a little bit. Just the race is pretty hard for me. The dual meets pretty hard. All the college teams are pretty fast. And that outdoor, the weather's also not safe out there because the weather's pretty bad. It was really cold, raining, a lot of snow on the ground. It was freezing out there. It's like snow on the ground, ice in the ground, and super
mm,
windy out there.
mm,
I was not safe at all. I was not very safe. It was really bad out there.
mm,
So Kelly, to provide more clarification, and I do remember when we first joined his USA swimming team,
mm,
the swimmers were always concerned about what he was doing or what he wasn't doing,
mm,
not understanding that, we talk with the coaches. The coaches make certain modifications for him um, because they're aware of certain sensory issues, that he has, or the need for him to step away to reset, or the length of time it takes to process something. And so sometimes the swimmers, they can be unkind. And so what he's talking about now is if it seems like he's not finishing a set or
mm,
missing a practice, the swimmers come up with their own narrative as to what he's doing.
mm.
Um, in our world, that's called minding your business.
Right,
Um, but in the disability world, it's called accommodation. And under ADA, he's entitled to that. And people don't always understand it, but it's not up to him to disclose why he is or he isn't doing something. When
right,
he's talking about the weather, that's an additional barrier for him. We're in Maryland. He's not used to going back and forth from a house to in snow and ice and those things. And so, not having access to transportation like the other swimmers have, that's a barrier to participation. So everything that he's saying con- contributes to his stress, and what he has to go to just to show up for practice, just
right,
to be present.
right. And that's with the collegiate swimmers. That's on the,
Hmm.
yes, on the collegiate level. And one of the things that Lawrence just mentioned, not sure if that's feedback for me or what, but one of the things Lawrence mentioned was he said on the collegiate level or on the para level. So for people who may not understand the Paralympics or the para swimming level, um, Lawrence, I don't know if you want to share. I love that picture of you swimming, getting ready to jump in. Um, what has that been like? Because I remember talking with your mom once about how people could be really mean also because they don't understand that your disability is different than somebody that may have a physical disability. Is that correct? I want to make sure. Have you felt that in the past? I know Dee has articulated
Yeah, I
that.
felt that in the past. Yes, it's want to do well so far. When I see those like I watched a AAC or ACC championship. Those times, their times are pretty fast. They've been training really hard. They've been working together. Then
Mhm.
they respect each other. And then they pushing so hard. They have good breakouts, good starts, good on the wires, and they got good times. I see some college people, my friends, broke NTA record and school records, a lot of school records so far. And they
That-
go way on the minute and Pac-12 championship, and they swim really good. They swim really fast. Yeah,
Mhm.
all the conferences like mid like I would say first week, like end of February, first week in March, and they sound pretty good. And
Mhm.
there's a 2-hour pro series going on for this weekend. I think it's the last day.
Got it. Okay.
So Kelly, I
Yeah, I'm
think
about to
this
do.
is. Oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
Lawrence.
No, I
No,
was
go
just saying
ahead.
they do so well because I'm gonna do the second day, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because I have a lot of artists and teammates. I got a lot of artists with this guy named Sapp Colin Seward. I got a lot of arguing with Colin Seward about just saying like talking about go like leave me alone, go away, or f bomb me, and I don't want to hear from me, or just non thing to me, and rest his friends saying non stuff like they just ignore me or just go away or something. Is they then my team was not perfect. They're mean to me. They're not perfect. They're rude or just disrespect me and then saying mean things to me. And they're being weird because my team wasn't that good enough. It just you have to make like being respectful and you don't have to be friends with the teammates. You just swim. That's it. It's just really hard out, but it just kind of it's too much for me. It's like it's too much pressure for me. It's just, I just wanted to be a be a best friend. I think like I can find different coaches and different trainers. My different trainers because I have like pain. I get pain a lot. I get uh I don't know. I've just been stretching it. I get pain a lot in my legs. That's
So
it.
Kelly, what's interesting is speaking on the disability side, I think that people underestimate how much Lawrence actually does know. And
Mhm.
they often take advantage of that fact.
Got it.
Like you just sat here and heard him spit off the different conferences. He knows times, like he can remember names better than I can.
Right.
And, there's so many assumptions that come, with that disability, and people think that he doesn't have feelings or that he doesn't understand. And so in my advocacy, I do try to create areas of understanding, but at the end of the day, the world is still what it is.
Right. And people are mean. That's something I heard Lawrence say. People are mean and people are good. There are good people and there are bad people. And so I'd love to, how have you dealt, Dee, as a mom, when you've experienced some of these things that Lawrence is talking about, people being mean or disrespectful? Do you jump in and advocate? I'm pretty sure you do. I know you do, because I know
I
you.
was gonna say, I do.
Can you
That's
share some of the things you've done from an advocacy level around people with autism and intellectual disabilities? I know you did something even recently with
mhm.
the Department of Transportation. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so even with the situations that Lawrence is talking about, like within 24 hours of him telling me that was happening, I was on my email, I was on my phone, and looped in everybody that needed to handle it immediately
Yeah,
because I will get on a plane. uh I'll show up anywhere to have these conversations, to get to get it going. Like, I do let things try to work themselves out, because an important part of having Lawrence advocate for himself is giving him the tools that he needs so that he can do it. But some
mhm,
things are beyond his reach when we're talking about adults, holding adults accountable for the children that are in their charge. But I also advocate at a national level, a legislative level, because if because sometimes people take this attitude of, well, you can't make me, or their feelings, well, you can't force me to have a person with a disability on my team. You can't force me. And I'm talking like county teams,
mm,
um, sports that are non-competitive, where you literally just sign a kid up and everybody's on the team.
right.
Um, so when they have that space of saying, well, you can't make me, I'm kind of like, well, wait a minute. there's a law for that. If there's not, I'll help create a law for that.
Right.
So in terms of the advocacy, more recently, well, not even recently, but about a year ago, Lawrence wanted his driver's permit. And he's very literal. Like, he can, if you tell him something, he's not going to forget it. If he reads it, he's not going to forget it. So he took the driver's ed class. We found a teacher that was willing to work with him. And I think he finished the driver's ed class with, like a B plus. So he knew the material. We went to take the test to get his permit, and he wasn't passing it. We went every Wednesday for almost a year, and he kept failing that test. And it's only 25 questions. But when he took the test on his phone, the practice test, he got 25 out of 25, and he could do it in like 5 minutes flat on his phone. He did it. He took the practice test on the computer, 25 out of 25. Like, he knew it like the back of his hand. And so when we went to the MVA, he wouldn't pass. And I knew at that point there was a disconnect. So I reached out to the head of the head of my council, who's the executive director. She reached out to the head of the Maryland Department of Transportation, or the MVA, to have a conversation, because I told them that the book that they gave him to study for that test is not helping him. Like, there's a problem. And so working with them, we determined that, number one, that book needs to be written in plain language. And plain language is actually an official language where things are written in the plainest term. So to give you an example, would be like if a doctor told you you had conjunctivitis, in plain language, that means you have pink eye. It
Right.
means the same thing. You're
Right.
just simplifying the language. And so as a result, the state of Maryland MVA rewrote the entire language manual in plain language. And Lawrence was able to take the test. We applied for a reasonable accommodation. They granted it to us that one time, and he passed the test 25 out of 25 in less than 10 minutes. So that's a testament of what accommodation can do. It's not that he did not know the information. The test just wasn't, it was designed to basically trick people, to measure your ability to decode questions, but that wasn't their job. Their job is to get people on the road safely. And so most recently, the data from that manual was published in October. They pulled the data from November and December, since they've changed the manual. And the pass rate for the state of Maryland has gone up 15% since they've changed that. So, and that's not just for people with disabilities, that's for everyone. So they're now looking to roll out additional initiatives, because they do see where there was a bottleneck in their process.
Mhm. And that's the power of one person, one at a time. That's D, pushing for a real issue that affected her son. I think that's fantastic. What can people like us on the call, what are ways, how can we help? How can we best support you, D, and people with disabilities? What can we do?
First, definitely hold yourselves and your children, your family members accountable for their interactions when you're dealing with a person with any type of disability. They're people too. It requires a little extra patience. Um, not saying special considerations, but we do that every day. When he was in high school, I remember other kids, you see people yelling, at each other, talking about each other. You excuse the behavior. You say, oh, boys will be boys, this or that. But when you're engaging with a person with autism, there's a fear. Like, we don't have that same level of compassion or empathy that you would have for these mean girls or these mean groups that we have. So, one, just extend that same courtesy. Number two, employment. Many of us are leaders. We've got, the ability to advocate in the spaces that we are, for having people with disabilities at the table. Lawrence wants a job. he'll need a job. He's very intelligent. He can do it. So when in any conversation where we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that includes people with disabilities also. So if you're in a space where it doesn't come up, ask the question, well, how will
Mm,
this benefit, or how are we going to incorporate people with disabilities?
mm.
Because the help comes from outside of this community, not only within.
Right. And supporting things like what you just talked about with the DMV and changing the language so it's, I think in your words, plain English. Like
Plain language.
we need
So in many states, and I do know Governor Moore is working on making it mandatory for all government documents to be written in plain language. So it doesn't just benefit people with disabilities. Like when you're reading a legal document, you would want it in the plainest language as possible because you want to know what you're being held accountable for.
Mhm.
And even like when buying a house, there's a lot of language you don't understand. So it benefits everyone. So
And
that's one great way of doing it. When you're reading over a document and someone is asking you, does this sound okay? Just say, can we break it down in plain language? That's the official language. That is an official language. So that's helpful also.
can we break it down in plain language? That's a simple question, but that really opens up possibilities for
It
people.
does. It's an accessibility tool that you don't realize for everyone. Like Kelly knows, like I called McDonald's, I called Chick-fil-A, just going through the Chick-fil-A line. And I mean, and Lawrence knows about this, where the people come to your car now and they're like, well, what do you want to eat? And we're like, can we see the menu? And they're like, well, we can tell you what it is. No, we need to see the menu because that menu with pictures is an accessibility tool, and you're taking away the independence of someone to be able to order their meal, someone that maybe has Alzheimer's, someone that maybe is forgetful. So people don't understand how these everyday things are tools for independence.
Or even we were recently working on a project together with UD for Easter seals. And a person was colorblind and couldn't see the words on the page. And so our designer had designed beautiful slides that we all thought were beautiful, but they were colorful and their words were in color. And he needed everything to be black and white because he was colorblind. So that was a huge learning for me because I said, okay, let's make sure we change all the language, black and white, black words on the white backgrounds. We can add color for, some aesthetic
Mhm.
effects choose to, but from an accessibility perspective, someone who's colorblind needs to have the gradation needs to be stark. So it's black and white. And that was a really big learning to me. So I added in the chat something simple as can we break this down in plain language, which was an enabler for Lawrence to pass that test in 10 minutes, which is incredible. And congratulations again. That's awesome. And then I think you mentioned something about jobs, and I know also with some work and we've done and some research I've seen that it is legal to pay people with a disability lower than the minimum wage,
Mhm.
significantly lower than minimum wage, which is not okay. So how can we do something about that?
So the state of Maryland actually has moved away from that. It's called sub-minimum wage law, and it's where employers can apply for a certificate to pay a person with disability lower wages than they would pay someone else. And yes, it is legal. Ethical? No,
And in
because
most states it's legal, right? Most states it's legal to
Mhm.
do. Mm-hmm.
And so but if we really want, I mean, we're a full ecosystem. If we want people to be less dependent on the government, then we have to stop funneling people with disabilities towards Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. But for those of us with kids, know that if they don't go to college, we can't keep them on our insurance. So it's like this terrible cycle of codependence. And so if they want their own jobs, if they want their own lives, they have to be able to finance it. I mean, it's simple economics. that we all deal with. And many of the jobs that we work at do that. And I don't think people know that. So when you say, oh, we've got 5 people in our mailroom that have disabilities, they work at our company, ask if they're getting paid sub minimum wage. You may not know. You may think that they are getting paid, maybe not what you're getting paid, but you, in your mind, you're probably thinking it's an equitable rate wage, when in reality, it may not be.
Mhm. It's so deep. It's so deep and not okay. So thank you for that tip. I want to make sure we open up the floor. If anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free. If you're on the phone and you've dialed in, you can hit *6. And if you're on Zoom, feel free to come off and unmute your mic. There is a comment, a question that says, what are Lawrence's goals and dreams beyond swimming? So Lawrence, what are your thoughts beyond swimming?
About my thoughts maybe on swimming was I got this feeling about yeah, I've been working so hard. Like I've been working so hard. Like I do full-time training. Like I always get up in the morning every day. I do double practices every day, but not we sometimes we do like lifting training up in the morning, in the afternoon swimming. It was like Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then like I think Monday was I believe it was lifting. It was lifting in the morning section and in the afternoon swimming. And then it was like Mondays, Thursdays first this semester. It's always Mondays and Thursday lifting
Mhm.
mornings and Thursdays. Lifting mornings and then swimming in the afternoon, Mondays and Thursdays, and then we did always do doubles like swimming in the morning and swimming in the afternoon. And then we have always have Saturday practice. Sometimes we don't. We get our breaks because of the dual meets and stuff. And we have the Saturday practice off. Always Sunday off for this year. Always Sunday off. Sometimes they do like Sunday workout, do some stretching stuff. Except same day on Saturday. Just some just working out sets, and then working so hard. And there's some loosening out, stretching out again, and just like let it rip and working hard.
So
Working.
Lawrence, I think what Miss Kelly is asking is, what do you want to do when you stop swimming? Like, what else do you want to do outside of swimming? Like, what
Honestly,
kind of job do you want? Like, why are you in school? What kind of job do you want?
good question. Like I'm thinking about like finding a job at other states. After like retire swimming, I'll just do some somewhere else like supercross. I'm gonna do supercross for life. Just so you know, like I like doing supercross after I retire for swimming. Maybe I get to like LA 2028 and then I will get a job and I'll do supercross. After I finish my swimming career when I get retired till 2028.
So Lawrence, I told Kelly that you paint and that you're really good in art. We talked about, her kids and the connection with the arts. You want to talk about your art ability, how great a painter you are?
Yeah, yeah. Forget that. Yeah, I'll probably just think about some arts doing also, just creating, combining stuff like in drawing. I could like some build and stuff like I can like I can make anything.
That's awesome.
It's hard. It's you have to like I get used to do hard stuff like the hard drawing and the hardest painting you are.
Yeah. Well, we have plans to do some things with arts and creating art camps and all kinds of good things coming in 2025. So we'd love to have you be a part of that. Share your artwork with us and the world. So that's coming in a year or so. Um, Someone just asked a question. So thank you for answering that, Lawrence. Dee, how do you respond to microaggressions against Lawrence?
I think she already knows the answer to that. That's my mom.
Okay.
Uh, I address it head on. I look at everything as a learning opportunity. I've learned to not um, respond in a negative way, but let people know, like, I see you and you see me, in this space, because he may look at it as them being friendly. I know shade when I see it. I see this, the underbelly of whatever it is. So I've not always been this upfront. Growing up, I mean, I'm still pretty introverted, believe it or not. But growing up, I wouldn't address things head on. But because I know he relies on me,
Mhm.
I ask the question, for clarification. It's like what I hear you saying is, but this is my understanding of this. This is what you're saying, but this is what you're doing. So how I deal with it when it comes to him and other people, I ask the question. I
Mm.
address the elephant in the room because his life depends on it. He has been very successful in this space, as a swimmer with these comorbidities, and you may not get a second chance. You
Right.
know, um, he's done very well financially in this space. He's done very well with the microaggressions. Um, and so leaving these stones unturned could impact him, in his future. So I've learned how to be a much different person in this process.
So you take every opportunity when someone throws the shade or throws the microaggression, take every opportunity to correct it and to say,
Yes, because it's repetitive. I mean, I'm sure he's not the first person they've said or done this to. And you never know who you're talking to or how you impact someone's life. So I use that as an opportunity to let them know that what you're doing, what you're saying is not okay. And not because I feel this way, because either it's illegal or it is a microaggression, or maybe you didn't mean for it to come off this way, but this is how it landed. Um, there needs to be more of this accountability that we hold each other to, because we let so much slide these days, and it's the next person, because not everybody has a mom that's willing or able to do this.
that's right.
um and we've seen the effects, in the news, of people being abused or taken advantage of. And I don't want that to be him. So Lawrence knows I have his back and I'll do whatever I can to protect him.
Always. And you have his back and your other children. So
Hmm.
how do you navigate all of it, right? You have three children. So you
Hmm.
have another one in high school, is that correct?
Yep, the last one is in high school. My daughter graduated from college last year. I don't even remember. This is her second degree.
Okay.
Lawrence is in the middle. He's a junior in college, and then I have a senior in high school.
Okay.
So I am just doing it like everybody
Yeah.
else. There's no plan. I am winging it.
No plan, but you have such expertise in this space, and it really comes from a deep space of love and a desire to help see all your children thrive,
No,
and
absolutely. This is definitely learned. No formal training until I went to school really to deal with this. And, moving forward, um, I'm studying and working on inclusion and the intersectionality of disability and race. It disproportionately affects our community. And I think that's worth noting, when we're talking about training and everything else. But yes, this is through lived experience, not formal training.
what do you say to the parent, the rude parent that says, you shared the story, so I remember what you said, but this was many years ago. I remember someone said to you, well, he doesn't look like he's disabled. Why is he able to swim at the Paralympics? That's not fair. I remember someone saying that to
Hmm.
you. And what was your response, if you can share?
Girl, that was so long ago. I don't even remember. But um, there's there are rules, there's paperwork, there's documentation. But it honestly, it doesn't matter what people think he should or should not do. We're rule followers, and anybody who knows me knows that I do my work before we do anything. And so he was just that good of a swimmer. That's basically what it is. And I think that was a projection of saying that if he really did have this disability, he should not be able to swim this way. But guess what? He has this disability and he can swim this way. And the person that said that was not a person of color, and Lawrence would always beat their son in swimming.
Mm,
And nothing hurts worse than having a person with a disability beat your kid in swimming. And so it was more of a dig to justify, to try to take something away from him that he's worked so hard to achieve. And
All right,
so, and so I told that parent, just deal with it. I
good,
mean, at the end of the day, he does have the disabilities and he is that fast.
good for you. Good for you. Good for you. It looks like someone has come off of mute. Did you want to ask a question, or is that by mistake? I'm not sure.
Jill? Okay, maybe not.
Maybe not. It's okay. Did anyone else want to ask a question in the 5 minutes or so that we have left? 5 or 7 minutes? Or have a thought? Quiet this morning. Well, I want to go back to something we started off the conversation with around the sport and how we can work to change the sport for our Black children, because it is a sport with very little diversity. And I've witnessed it and seen it myself with my own children. And saw an essay that Chris wrote once about this issue, about having braids, half blonde, half brown, and how people criticized him or ridiculed him. And he never told us this when it was happening, but he shared it later after the fact. And it was really just heartbreaking. And so I wonder, are there ways? I know there've got to be ways to change the narrative, to get more people in the sport. I know we did some work in that space together, Dee, a few years ago, teaching young Black kids, children, how to swim. I'd love to bring that back and renew that and reimagine that program
Mhm.
with you and Lawrence and other organizations that are swim organizations focused completely on helping Black kids learn how to swim, so that the world can look differently in the sport that Lawrence is thriving in and
Mhm.
our children are.
No,
So
I mean, I agree. We we definitely need, well, first of all, it's a life-saving skill. We already know that. Um, and not only do we need to get more people in the sport, we need to create more acceptance and more understanding in the sport. Because Kelly, you and I know, when you get past a certain level of swimming, you may have 5 people in an entire building, 5 Black swimmers, an entire swim meet of 1,000 kids,
that's right.
and it's 2024. You have to ask yourself, why are there only 4 or 5? You know,
Mhm.
it, I mean, and those are the questions that we're asking, because it's not like we can't swim. We ask ourselves, why don't we? What are the barriers? So I do look forward in continuing those conversations.
Absolutely. One other question that just came in: how is navigating Lawrence's disability affected parenting your other children, if at all?
I mean, it huge. I mean, simply because it takes more time, it takes more money. As you know, I travel quite a bit with him to see him, simply because he needs that support. And so in many areas, well, now that he's out of the house, like when they were home, I raised the 3 of them together. So we went everywhere together, but they're in 3 different places now. Um, so it's definitely a strain on time and focus.
Mhm. But you somehow, some way, get it all done.
To the
Yeah,
best of my ability is all I can say.
absolutely. I think that's what every person on here can relate to, that, getting it all done to the best of our ability and trying to do the best we can with our children, um, to show love and support and all of the good things. So I really appreciate you being here. Lawrence, is there anything else you'd want to share with all of the people on the call?
No, thank you. I really appreciate you having me. And then thank you for everything, for sharing about my thoughts about swimming, about everything in the future, and my whole life. Wish you luck for everything in the future, bro. Thank you for having me. Thank
Thank
you.
you. We will lift you up and be looking for you. And your Instagram is Lawrence Fast Swimmer. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Lawrence Fast Swimmer. Please follow him on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere. And he has a very busy summer ahead and a lot of good things going
I
on.
don't have Facebook.
You don't have Facebook,
No,
Instagram.
but he
Okay.
does have a vlog that he created of his travels. I'm proud of him for that because he has had no formal training. One day he just said, I need a camera because I'm going to start vlogging, and he's just done it. So he's done like his travels all over the world on his vlog.
Amazing. So amazing. Well, we look forward to seeing everything that you're doing in the future. And I want to just ask and thank you again for getting up so early to be with us this morning. I know it's even earlier there. We're on the East Coast. You're in Central Time, so even earlier. Really appreciate you being here. I just want to make sure, okay, people are saying, love Lawrence. We love you, Lawrence. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much. And keep pushing, keep fighting, keep working through. I think Chris is trying to join, so I'm going to give him a second.
I will. Thank you. I will.
Yeah, Chris is texting right now saying, wait, Lawrence is on. Give me a second. So we'll see. For those of you who don't know, Christopher is our youngest. And he and Kyle have been swimming with Lawrence over the years. Kyle might hop on as well. We'll see. We have a few more minutes left.
So Kelly, I do want to tell one story. We were at a swim meet, and this lets you know, I guess how deep the relationship, that Kelly and I have, and her boys, and this mission of the SonRise Project. We were at a meet at the University of Maryland, and this is kind of around COVID time where we had to drop our boys off and leave. And so I had dropped Lawrence off at the bottom where we dropped the kids off at the pool. And Chris was walking up with a group of friends. And Chris walked away from the people that he was with, his friends, to come talk to Lawrence, to kind of dap him up and to chat with Lawrence or whatever. And I drove off and I
Chris
called
just
Kelly,
joined, by the way, Dee. You're sharing the story right on time. Chris
like
just
right when he's talking. So
Mhm.
Chris, I'm talking about the time at University of Maryland. It was a championship meet, and I was dropping Lawrence off. You saw him get out of my car, and you left the group of friends that you were with to come over and talk to Lawrence. So you guys were kind of dapping, but and I knew he was waiting on Lawrence because he stopped. The other guys kept walking, and Chris kind of stood behind waiting on Lawrence. And so they were talking and they walked in the building. And so I drove to a parking space and I was crying. And
Like
I
I am
called,
right now. Like I am
mhm,
right now.
because Kelly knows this story. So I called Kelly and I was in tears. I was crying. And the only thing that was coming out was like, and Chris, and Chris, and Chris. And Kelly said, I'm getting ready to cry again. Kelly was like, what did he do? And I was like, no, no, no. Like, I need to get it out. And so I was just telling her just how kind he was. Like um, her boys have always been super sweet, to Lawrence. And Kelly had already dropped Chris off at that time. So she was gone. And I had to explain to, I don't even have any tissues. I had to explain to Kelly just how hard this space, really is, as a mom to watch people interact or not interact with him. And her family didn't even know he had a disability, which is crazy
Never knew.
because Kelly, she went to his Tokyo going away party because he made the team competing in Tokyo. And she went to the party and Kelly was like, disability what? I don't know what you're talking about. And so I don't think her
True
boys knew.
story. I had no idea.
Yes. And her boys um didn't know, and they've not treated him any different than they have any other friends. And so it's just so perplexing that it's the first thing that some people see, and then in other spaces we have people are like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't, so we're grateful for the people that for the people that have just been very genuine. But I had to tell that story because I remember Kelly was like, what's going on? What? And I was just sobbing. Like, normally I'm not a crier, but that day I think just something in me broke because I was stressed, I'm like, here we go in this space again. And I couldn't be in there because during COVID, parents could not, come in. We had to drop them off. And, you know, I've developed anxiety, in this space. And so I'm just grateful for her babies. But yeah, if Chris wants to come off mute, I'll give him time to chat.
Hey, Chris. I think what you just shared, Dee, is such a beautiful story. And as we wrap up, if Chris wants to come off a mute, you can hit *6 on your phone, Chris. I think what's telling about that story is, one, we did not know Lawrence has a disability, has a disability. What we do know and what we see is he's a Black kid, a Black young man, and there's so few of us. So it's nice to have other people in our circle, that look like us, that share that space and share that truth. And Chris with his braids, Lawrence with his natural, his twist, there's a commonality on a very personal level, and a human desire to want to do well, but to also be able to express, yes, I'm a great swimmer, but I'm also a smart person. I'm also worthy of a job, of making a living wage one day, and of contributing to society beyond all the accolades in the pool. So I just wanted to share that. And Chris may not want to come off.
Okay.
But if you would like to, Chris, no pressure. But D was, he said I'm on, but probably not. Okay.
It's
Uh,
okay.
but Chris is here, Lawrence, to say hello, and really grateful for everybody this morning. Grateful for you getting up so early. Fruit doesn't fall from the tree. Both of you are amazing moms and have raised beautiful young men. That's so sweet. Thank you very much. And Chris, you hit *6 on your phone. On your phone, hit *6 if you want to come off of mute. Oh,
Hi, can you hear me?
hello. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I remember that, and I just wanted to say, like, I didn't know he had a disability for a really long time, and I mean, I just saw him as a friend, so when I found out, I mean, I don't think it changed anything. I don't know why it would.
Don't know why it would change anything. He said he thinks of you as a friend, Lawrence.
What's it again?
He
Did you
said,
hear Chris? Did you hear Chris talking?
No, okay, I'm sorry.
Chris, can
Oh,
you
hi.
repeat that for him?
Yeah, I said I didn't know he had a disability for a really long time, and when I found out, it didn't change anything because he's just my friend. Still is, obviously.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since they get like back in. I will say back in senior champs, last year at senior champs. It's been a while.
it's
Yeah,
been,
it's been a long time. All right.
I know.
Yeah, we can catch up.
I know the coach has not been treated. I'm sorry, but it's hard to hear that.
So, Chris, but for me, I want to say thank you for that moment, because it meant a lot to me, like on that day, because I mean, I think Lawrence was fine, but as parents, this weighs heavily. And so I thought it was worth mentioning to your mom, because it's not the first time that you've done it, because I've seen you on deck talking to him. I've even seen your brother doing it as well. But that day, like I said, something broke and I had to call your mom, and let her know just how wonderful you are when she's not around. So thank you, Chris.
now we're all going to be crying all day. Thank you,
Yeah, no problem.
Christopher.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. You're a good person, good young man. We love you. Love you too, Lawrence and Dee. And I am a crier. Everybody that knows me knows I do cry at the drop of a hat. But I wanted to say I'm so grateful for you being here this morning, Lawrence. Grateful for your presence and all that you're doing in the world. Love everything about you and all the work you're doing. And Dee, you know how grateful I am for you. Dee is the executive director of the SonRise Project. She has really done a tremendous job and work, and we have so many plans for the future. So thank you, Dee, for being here as well. And for everybody in our village, thank you for showing up every Sunday morning. I think we're at 209 or 210 calls. It's a wonderful place to be and to start our Sunday mornings. So with that, I'm going to say a very brief prayer and end our call this morning. Dear Father, thank you so much for allowing Dee Sapp and her incredible son, Lawrence Sapp, to be with us this morning on this beautiful Sunday. Thank you for keeping Lawrence safe and Christopher safe and Kyle safe and all of our children safe as they walk their journeys and they walk their paths. Help us be advocates and loving parents for our children, despite whatever they may be going through. Help us love them unconditionally and advocate for them unconditionally. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Mhm.
Amen, everyone. You have a beautiful day. Dee, were you about to say something?
No, I was about to say bye to Lawrence. Love you, buddy.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later. All right.
Okay. All right.
Bye, Lawrence. Take care. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, Chris.